We've been talking a whole lot about the new year and what's the new year going to have in store for us. And I've just been thinking what are we in for this year, huh? Well, one of the things I've been doing is I've been kind of listening to see what other people are saying about their feelings about this new year and what we're in for. And of course, I'm listening to you guys, and I hear you talking about all sorts of things, but everything you say is kind of cautious, a little concerned about this year ahead, because most of you guys are telling me that you think that this year is going to be challenging, that this year is going to be a year when you're busy and hectic. I was talking to Marcos the other day, and he says, "Well, we're gonna get a new house, here in a couple of months." And I'm thinking, man, moving? Boy, that's a challenge. I talk around and find out that some of you are working in businesses where they're doing all this kind of, restructuring of management and how you do things. Man, that's stressful, isn't it? And of course, every time I ask someone about what do you think about the new year, it says, "Oh my God, we're going to have elections this year. This is going to be horrible." Because what that's going to bring is all the focus on the politics and the election, and you're going to see people's emotions and conflicts are going to raise. And this economy this year, you guys are kind of thinking that we really better watch ourselves this year, right? Because not really quite sure of what the economy is going to do. So there's caution. There's concern. Now, of course, I've also tried to sort of watch media. What are people saying in media, about the new year? And I think I decided I just really shouldn't. I really shouldn't even pay any attention to media, right? I think the media is where all the craziness is in our culture today. And then I've also been spending some time checking in on spiritual leaders in different churches in the United States that I've listened to over the years. I said, what are they saying about it? And it's really kind of interesting because spiritual leaders are looking at this year and they have a lot of concerns. In fact, many of them are saying that this year is going to be a season of chaos. Oh, great. That's right? Oh, great. Well, I don't know if they know any more than Donna. You have the United States map. You're just placing our kids all over the place. So, I don't know that they really know a lot more than you. But there is that concern for what's this year going to hold? And it's going to be confusing, and it's going to be difficult to navigate. And especially when they say it's going to be a season of chaos. That's not just a bad day, right? A season of chaos it's going to be around for a while, right? Yeah. Well, I want to tell you that seasons are real things. Because God created us to exist in cycles and seasons. There's a cycle of a day, sunrise to sunset. There's a cycle to a year, summer, fall, winter, spring. A cycle that goes and these cycles, they're really real. And a lot of times there are things that are going on, and we want to, when we're feeling this caution and when we're feeling this fear, what do we do with that? I was so impressed today as I sang through the worship set today, because all of those songs were talking to us. I've seen you move and you've moved mountains, and I know you can do it again. And Christ is our cornerstone, the one we believe in. All of those songs were really addressing this kind of concern that many of us are feeling. Spiritual leaders in our country, this chaos. Because you see, chaos is something that, the chaos in this world is something that we can't control. We can't control chaos. But we know who can control chaos. And the person who can control chaos is God. In fact, that is God's specialty. God's specialty is that He comes to us in moments, and in those moments, He speaks and He settles the chaos. He removes the chaos. So God's the one that calms the chaos. And also, the answer to the chaos in this world is God and us, the church. You know, I think as we enter this new year, we need to remember that we are church. We are church. And see, we know we can come in here together. We know that we can bring our anxiety and our uncertainty and our fears and our doubts. And then we realize that on Jesus Christ there is a solid foundation. And that the church is a rock in our world. A rock. We are the church. We're built on a rock. We're the people of God, and He loves us. We are a people that have hope because the rock doesn't move. It's solid while all other ground is shifting and sinking sand. And that we follow Jesus because Jesus is the one who connects us to God. He is the one that speaks to chaos and stills wind and wave. These miracles are not just stories, just not marvels, but they're trying to teach us something about when we look around the world and we see that we're just filled with chaos. We know that here in this place, we connect to a God who loves us, that has plans for us. That means our life has a purpose. And our purpose as a church is to love each other and to be a light in our world and in our culture. Because this year, what will calm the chaos and what will be God's presence for us as we need it and the resources that we need help, they are all here at Spirit of Life. And that's why we come here. You know, the Bible talks to us a lot about seasons, doesn't it? King Solomon, wisest man that ever lived, he tells us that there's a time for everything, a season for everything in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. He says that there's a time for every season, for every activity under the sun. And he goes through and he paints this big picture from birth to death. There's a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to kill, a time to build, a time to tear down, a time to heal, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to search, a time to give up, a time to keep, a time to throw away, a time to tear, a time to mend, a time to be silent, and a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, a time of peace. And what he is saying is that in between these extremes, weeping and laughing, tearing down and building. In between all of these extremes, God's right there. God's in the middle of that. And in the middle of the chaos, in between the extremes, God is the one that we connect to. And God is the one that guides us through the best of times and the worst of the times and everything that goes in between those. You see, the one thing that Spirit of life is that it's here. And you're here today. And one of the things that we do as a church, this is part of us being the rock. This is part of us and knowing our relationship with God and His plans for us, and knowing that His presence will help us in all the extremes, even in the chaos, from one extreme to the other. He's here. See, we're here. We are here for the good extremes. When the times are going really well, and we just look at our life and say, man, look what I did. I built that. I did that. Look what I made. Look what I achieved. In those times that are so very good. And here in this place, what we do is we celebrate that good moment. But we also celebrate, look what God did in your life and for you. Because we know that God is the one that brings success, that brings blessing. And here in this place, we know that the good news is God is with us and He's working no matter what the season. And Spirit of Life, we're here for the worst of times too. You know what the worst of times are? Those times when you lose something, you lose someone, you have a crisis, a pandemic. You hear what the World Health Organization is talking about right now? We got to get prepared for pandemic X. No, I'm serious. Hey, we got to get focused on pandemic X because it's going to come. I guess it could. But in those times where there is loss and crisis, and when everything is turned upside down with us, that's when we are here for each other. And we remind each other that Jesus is the one that can move mountains. We've seen Him do it before, and He will do it again. We believe that. In other words, God is right there, speaking toward us and connecting with us in all the extremes, in all the middle. That beautiful passage, the first 8 verses of Ecclesiastes 3, a time for this, a time for that. It ends up with this conclusion in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11. He says that God takes all of these times and everything, from the extremes to the middle, and He says, He makes everything beautiful in His time. We come here at Spirit of Life to connect with the beauty of God. And the beauty of God who works through the worst and the best of our lives. And He works for those and in those to help draw us closer to Him and to realize we are people who have hope. It's not because we think we have some superior intellect or anything, but we have hope because God is with us. We have hope because we are Spirit of Life. And Spirit of Life is where we come and we understand that our lives are not just connected from the best days to the worst days, but our lives are connected to an eternity. Because we are our lives are bigger than Ecclesiastes 3, the good and the worst. Our lives are about eternity, and we understand that here at Spirit of Life, and that is that our human hearts know that there is an eternity. And that's where all of these good times and bad times are taking us. That's where we're headed. We're not just headed for another season. Because we don't just think about seasons, we think about for all of time. You know, years ago, when we started Spirit of Life, we looked for a name. Spirit of, I thought, was a good way to start, looking for the name. You know, like it could be the spirit of happiness. Spirit of wealth. Spirit of easy. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Here's the Church of the Easy. Spirit of life, the spirit of fame. Or it could be spirit of whatever you want. You know, and we have some churches that kind of have that flavor to them. But right here, we are Spirit of Life because that's what we are about. And in the middle of the extremes, from the best to the worst, it's those places in between where it's hard for us to navigate that. And what God has told us is that we are people who are connected to life, not tragedy, not death, not failure, not uncertainty, but we are connected to life because in the good and the bad, God is working in both of those extremes and everything in the middle to help produce the great beauty of His love in our lives and to use us to be there for one another for whatever happens, for better, for worse. You know, what happens to our lives is we bump into times where there's disruptions. You know, we think things are going good. Boom. The doctor tells us that, you know, we've got something serious to attend to. Our employer says we have to let you go, and we have these disruptions that go on, and we find ourselves feeling like we're being jerked between good time and a horrible time. And see, here at Spirit of Life, we understand that those kind of disruptions are exactly where God works to invite us into a new adventure. You know, we are Spirit of Life, but if you really stop and think about it, we are Spirit of Adventure. Because you know what happens? When people come to Spirit of Life, their lives don't stay the same. I mean, just look at how God opens us up here to new things. There's some of you that became a children's church teacher for the first time in this church, right? And I thought maybe, you know, that's really good to remind them of how their kids feel about them. You're just thinking that was really sneaky, wasn't it, right? Yeah. But you know what? What happens is that we come into these moments as a church and we are invited into an adventure. We're invited into adventures and relationships with other people. Man, I was thinking, you know, years ago, I was kind of bragging on some of the hiking that I had done, you know, and then I got 5 or 6 guys in the congregation that says, well, can you take us hiking? And it's turned out to be a real thing, right? We've got men in our congregation, you know, the knees are a little stiffer and they can't carry as much as they used to be, but they are really good hikers. They really are. And all the adventures of friendship and camaraderie that has that is brought. We've had people here, and when you come to Spirit of Life, you get called into an adventure. We started a counseling ministry here at Spirit of Life. And we've had a handful of people come in who had no training for it. No formal training, but have become outstanding counselors. A whole adventure unfolded. Families have been born here in this place. And we're looking forward to another one, right? Yeah, we're going to have another birth this year. That's going to be pretty cool. Alexis and Jerry. Did y'all know that? Coming soon. Coming soon. That's going to be an adventure number 2, right? You see, here at Spirit of Life, God opens our hearts up to new callings, new moments. And we should be eager looking for that, because in disruptions in our life, when things change and we step into new roles, new adventures open up. And I want to tell you, the new adventures that open up and that you're a part of here at Spirit of Life, that is what Ecclesiastes 3 is talking about when it says, and He makes everything beautiful in His time. So what about 2024? It's really okay for us to have our concerns. It's really okay for us to not be too certain about how things are going to unfold in our culture and in our economy and our politics and our international place and conflicts that are going on all around us. That's okay, because we know that here God is working through us and using us to not only love one another and help one another, but also to use us to be lights in our culture. Because we are a people who are not dominated and controlled by chaos. Because what we are controlled and dominated by is Jesus Christ. And we have to stop and remember that. Every song that we sang before today's message was about that. Was about our confidence, our hope, our knowing what God is going to do. That's why being here is so important. That's why coming here is our job is to love one another, to help one another in the good and the worst of times. But we are here to constantly be letting God in His Word retool us for the adventure that's ahead. Your adventure. Do you feel like you haven't been much of an adventurer lately? Do you feel like maybe you've just kind of been warming the bench over there at some sideline? Well, I want to tell you what you can do. Because we need to have a strategy as we go into this year. I know a lot of times people think that we have to have resolutions, but resolutions just, I hope it works. But a strategy is talking about something you're actually going to do. And today I have 4 things I want to ask you to do. Because this is what we do at Spirit of Life. Because this is what we do to be in the middle of all that's going on around us and in our lives and be connected to Jesus Christ, the rock of our salvation, the presence of God who powerfully is working in our lives from the bad to the good all the time, making it beautiful. And He does that here in our church. First thing I want to ask you to do, I want to ask you to feed your mind. I don't have to encourage you to eat, but I do have to encourage you to feed your mind, right? Feed your mind. You know, the best thing when we are in a season of chaos is not let all the crazy stuff that's being said and you know, the clickbait stuff that we run into in social media and all that stuff, to not let that be what is in our head. We need to feed our mind. Feed our mind and be listening to what God is saying to us today. You know, in Philippians chapter 4, the scripture says, you know, like, the Lord is near. So whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. You don't find much of that on social media. I want to challenge you to say, how can I feed my mind with good, worthy stuff that will help me lift my thoughts on a higher plane and help me interpret my world from a perspective of that Jesus has on our world and our place in it and what we can do for it. You guys ever take supplements? I mean, I know you all take supplements. You know, some of you, that's all you take is supplements. I've been over to some of your houses, looked at the counter there in the kitchen, and it's like 20 bottles of supplements, you know. And then you go to the doctor, and it gives you a little, gives you a little medicine for your thyroid, gives you a little medicine for your high blood pressure. Maybe you need this for some cholesterol or something like that. And then they say, well, but it'd also be good if you drank fish oil. You need to take some extra vitamin C, you gotta, and vitamin D and all of these supplements that go on. Because what's happening is we're trying to counteract all this garbage that we eat sometimes, right? You see, we need to let the good stuff into our brain, into our mind, into us. The good stuff, the supplements, the things that are going to build us up. In Romans chapter 12, verse 2, it says, don't conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Isn't that interesting what Paul's telling the Romans? He said, feed your mind. Feed your mind. So what I want to ask you to do is that I want you to set aside 30 minutes for every weekday. Now a lot of you drive that long just to get to work. A lot of you, maybe it takes 30 minutes to drink a cup of coffee and wake up, Maybe you have a 30-minute break somewhere. And through the the technology of earpods nowadays, like you can pop them in. You can listen to an inspirational person, or you can listen to an audio track of the Bible, or some podcast that's very relevant, where someone is speaking to you, about the Bible and helping you see your life in a biblical context. 30 minutes. Feed your mind. Feed your mind. 30 minutes. We waste that much time just, browsing on our phones, right? Hitting the clickbait. Like, whoa, what's this? Oh, I want to see this. I want to see that. Does it ever leave you just kind of empty? How many times I click on a YouTube and I'm sitting there, oh, that's really interesting. And I don't know what the strategy is, but they never tell you what you really want to know until 30 minutes into the Into the YouTube, right? Right? I mean, I look at there and it says, this new drug will cure your diabetes in 4 days. And I'm thinking like, I want to know what that is. I may not believe them, but I want to know what that is. And so I click on it, and it just unfolds, and they're just talking about, explain to me the cells and, how cholesterol goes in and out of the cells. It says, what is it? Tell me. I want to know what it is that cures you from diabetes in 4 days. And you get to the end of the YouTube video, and they say, so if you want to know more about this life-saving, tremendous breakthrough, go to this website and watch another video. Right? I'm telling you, download your favorite version of the Bible on your phone. Pick a place you want to get started. Just click it on. Just let it, just feed your mind. Feed your mind. We've got some of the greatest biblical teachers nowadays that are doing podcasts, just great and tremendous things. Take a break from, just the world news every 15 minutes, that you're listening to on and on and on. Feed your mind. We got to feed our minds. We got to. We have to plug that into our life and our days. Do it during the weekdays. Take a break on Saturday. Come here and I'll preach you a sermon for about an hour. I'll make up for the days you didn't do it at home, right? Oh, shouldn't have said that. Okay, feed your mind, number one. Number two, guard your heart. Guard your heart. Proverbs 4:23. The Proverbs are just rich wisdom sentences that just speak to us. And it says, above all else, guard your heart. For everything you do flows from it. What are we letting get in our heart? What are we letting get inside of us? It's just sucking us into the chaos season, right? You know how this begins? We're listening to something. And all of a sudden we just feel agitated. I mean, it happens almost all the time when I go and check the news of the day or a lot of things I bump into and I just feel aggravated inside. I don't even know why. But if I stop and think about what I've been listening to, what I had been just letting my heart just feel and experience, a word of gossip, the raging of someone who doesn't like what somebody else is doing, the politics, the wars, the rumors of war, all those kinds of things, we let those things get into our heart and it makes us sick. When we are discouraged and we're just having doubts about where we are, who we are, what we're doing, what's God saying to me, and that doesn't seem right. And whenever you feel that agitation, you're putting the wrong stuff in your heart. You're putting the wrong stuff in your heart. I'm telling you that when you are listening to God, you don't feel that way. You don't feel that way. Because when you are listening to God, God brings one thing, and that is He brings peace. Peace. God brings to an end the chaos, mentally, heart-wise. Guard your heart. If you feel that anxiety inside of you, if you just feel that stress inside of you, guard what you're letting into your heart. And say no to that thing, whatever it is. Say no to it because you don't want that stuff in your heart, because everything in your heart, everything flows from that. Feed your mind, guard your heart, get some role models. Get a role model, somebody. You know, when you walk in the Spirit of Life, when you come into our church, you got a lot of people to choose from. Now, maybe you have somebody else that you want to choose, and that's just fine. But just say, that sounds like a good idea, Pastor. You know, you just look around here today, and you just see if there's somebody that all of a sudden it just hits you and say, you know, I'd like to sit down and have a cup of coffee with them, just talk. Maybe you got some things you want to talk over with somebody. Just let them bounce back at you, you know? We all need role models. We need people that we regularly spend some time to mentor, to check what's going on inside of us. You see, that's the reason that the church is the hope of the world. Because in the church and among Christians who have the same faith in God and Jesus Christ, whose lives are built on that rock, we help one another. We help one another. And you know, when it comes to me knowing myself, I got blind spots. You got blind spots. You know, we don't see ourselves all the time. Somebody else is close to us, look at us and say, I don't know why you're fighting. I mean, that's not what God's calling you to. You know, that's not what you ought to be doing with this stress and difficulty that's going on. And I don't know the answer, but I'll pray for you. Find a role model that can just have a conversation and to help you, because role models bring a reality to our lives where we can see and hear the truth. And I am telling you, God will speak through that role model. Guarantee it. Get one. Last one is, I want to challenge you in the next year to push yourself and get strong. Push yourself by making relationships, building some relationships, and intentionally say, you know, I want to get to know them. I kind of know them, but I'd like to get to know them better. You don't have to go and do that with 100 people. You just pick the next one that crosses your path. Start building relationships and use them for an opportunity to help them, to maybe offer something that you can do for them. And as you do that, you're going to discover a calling, a new adventure in your life. It'll be a simple thing where you'll step forward and you'll get to be a part of something you never did before. And see, Spirit of Life, we want to be a church where adventures following Jesus Christ happen. Right? And that's why there's a Spirit of Life church. I'll tell you something about the seasons and what's going on in our world. This may be the season and the year of chaos. But chaos doesn't rule here. Jesus Christ rules here. And there's one thing that God does for everyone who gives him his heart, and that is that he eliminates the chaos and he brings simple clarity. You come to this place, we interact, we worship together, we listen to a word from God. And what happens is that God brings clarity. That's what God does. That was the first thing God did in the first verses of Genesis. God looked and he saw that everything was formless and there were voids and emptiness. And you know what God did to that? He looked at it and says, that's chaos. In the days of creation is God bringing everything into order. He's ordered our world. And you are part of this world. And adventures await us as we follow Christ into this new year. It may be a season of chaos, but we won't be a part of that chaos. We won't be a victim of that chaos. We will be a recipient of God's grace, His forgiveness, the new start we can make, the new adventure, because He has promised to do that. Donna reminded our kids of that. Jeremiah, right? I know the plans I have for you. If you could just let that consume your thought, God has plans for me. We'd be a whole lot more excited if we knew what they were, but God's going to reveal them. He's going to reveal them to us. He promises. Well, 2024, a season of chaos, not for us. Not here at Spirit of Life. And let's pull together. And let's go forward and let this year be an adventure we never dreamed it could be. Because the plans that God has for us is beyond anything we could ever imagine. Well, the Lord has a great week for you. I would just really encourage you. Feed your mind, guard your heart, get a role model, and push yourself into a relationship with others. Push yourself to get out there and just watch the beautiful things the Lord's going to do. God bless you.